this computer. Okay. So I got inspired to share some of the things I know about trees because of the California fires. And before I moved away from there, I was going from Central California, where I live, down to Southern California a lot, because that's where my family was. And every time I turned around, they were bulldozing more trees so they could build something on top of it without even thinking about what they were doing. We're talking like big, big trees. And big trees matter. Old growth trees matter. And what matters is they get to be in a grove, they get to be together, they work better um, when they are in community, just like the rest of us. And um, with all of the fires that were happening, I was thinking, well, here's that message coming back up again for why trees are important. And the trees that we would have had on the coast are gone, mostly because of cows. You know, they cleared them so cows could run through there, and whatever trees that they left were still having cows ruining their understory. So cows ruin understory. They go in there, they root through all of it and tear it all up. And having a healthy understory with your old growth tree growing in the middle of it is what keeps fire from moving that fast. So it doesn't matter if there's a wind, there's all this understory blocking the flames, and it's all green so that the fire can't go running through. I think everybody who has said they were coming is here now. Hi, everybody. I was just saying what my inspiration was is California fires and how trees can help us from that happening. And that's not really what builders think. They think blacktop is what keeps things from burning. Anyhow, um, the first thing that I wanted to share is how trees make it rain. So how many of you have actually gone out into like a pine forest and you smell that smell of pine that's coming from the trees? That's an aerosol that the tree puts out, and it travels up the trunk. I was going to draw, but that's not working. So you get to use your imagination. So the aerosol moves up the trunk and out through the branches and out through the greenery, the foliage, and creates that smell. But that aerosol takes with it a little bit of water from the tree. And that's that's evapotranspiration. So when things transpire, they're losing water. And as that water moves out of the tree on the aerosol particle acts as a condensation nucleus, meaning any water that's in the air can stick to it. And if there's no condensation nucleus in the air, you don't get condensation. There has to be something for the water to settle on. The trees provide that. So when you have a forest, it's going to make a cloud possible. So one of the things that I've run into is that people think that trees, they use all this water. They don't. They put water back in the ground and they provide everybody else with water too. And it's clean when it comes out of them. And it's clean when it settles on the condensation nucleus. So what I was going to do with this was I was going to give you a geography lesson because I'm from California and California is what I know. And the coastal forest is gone. And as you move east, you hit that big Central Valley that's in California. And that's where we grow all these nuts, pistachios, almonds, that's all grown in there. And before that turned into a desertified tree desert, it was full of elk and tules and water. So tall grasses and water. And what people saw when they came across North America as they migrated was this rich, lush valley full of water and just abundant with other types of wildlife. And that's all gone now. And part of it is because it's been removed. And the other part of it is because the coastal trees are gone. So the coastal trees, they make that water, like I was saying, that in the air, they make a cloud and it rains. The trees make that cloud and then it rains and it moves inland and would rain on the Central Valley. And then that would feed the Sierra Mountains. So the Sierra is running all through like Nevada and Utah, and then it would rain there. It would create snowpack, and all that snow would melt in the springtime and come down into the Delta in California. The Delta starts at Sacramento, that's Northern California, and it flows all the way out to the San Francisco Bay Area. And that entire region, like huge, almost that entire part of Northern California is Delta. And this is why there's a big argument around people being angry that we're not using that water, that we're leaving it for the creatures that live in it. You know, there are all these creatures that live in this lush delta, and that's still there. You can go up to Sacramento and you can see these grasses and what it used to be throughout the Central Valley. So that valley runs from like Bakersfield all the way up to Redding, which is almost the entire length of California. So it feeds a whole ecosystem, the entire Western ecosystem, all the way out to the Rocky Mountains. So water that Colorado should be getting is not arriving because there are no trees on the coast of California. So that's the thing that I really wanted to share, and around that aspect of trees and how important it is to have them in forests, because of how much of an impact they can make. And in the Amazon, the air over the Amazon River carries more water than the river. So that's how amazing of a job they do of regulating our planet. I don't remember where it is now, but there was something that I learned about it. I saw it in a video, one of these places in Australia that used to be a great place where it rained and they could grow whatever they wanted, and then all the trees were taken down and now it's a desert. So you got to have trees if you want rain. This is why they say that the chemtrailing is to make it rain, because those particles put a condensation nucleus in the air. But I would rather have a nice tree aerosol than whatever is in that they spray. So the other thing that I really wanted to share, well, actually, if anybody has a question, if anybody wants clarification on something, or you missed something and you want clarification on it, now would be a good time before I move on to other amazing things trees do. Ren has a question. You always have a question. What is your question, Ren? This is my friend Ren, by the way. He's not in the group, but I told him about it and I'm going to send him an invite.
Aloha. Aloha, everybody. Um, yeah, I was one of those kids in class that said, I have questions around what we're being taught. So yeah, there's always questions.
Yeah. What
Because
was it you
there's
wanted to know?
yeah, the we've heard his story. We want to hear her story. That's why we're here with you, Amanda, right? Her story.
I have a
So
lot of those, but I share them with the hymns.
I understand that. So my question, when you say all the trees are taken on the coast um and the natural, and I love the natural grasses. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are planting, are learning permaculture, that are planting and doing stuff. So there's not, the trees are not all gone. So when you say all the trees are gone and I'm like, hold on a second, there's plenty of trees. I love
Well,
about the
the
message.
thing though
The
is
message.
there's a huge expanse. So some people do have them, like people that you and I that we know. Some people have left their land alone. The thing is, it's not enough. And
Sure.
the biggest deal where it's happening is like the trees behind where my house were in Cayucas, completely bare. And that would have been coastal forestation. And then the redwoods up in Santa Cruz have been slowly, they're removing them. And that is what is impacting the Sierras the most.
Yeah, I loved what you're saying about how the leaves, the green of the trees send out the molecules out to the atmosphere over the ocean to bring in the moisture,
Mhm.
the rain clouds, and then how they end up trapped. They come and dump, and then they go further on with the trees that they
Yeah,
got the moisture
it
from.
cycles. It
Trees it
cycles.
cycles through,
Hmm.
and it's beautiful. The more that we plant the trees, the variety of trees and plants, the ecosystem is going to be what's going to help it. And I love if we can work with a nonprofit, as what I was telling you, that we
Yeah.
have our own board and work with the BLMs and the Caltrans here in California, if you will, on both sides of the road. So that way you don't have, and we can have the greenery. So that way, if fires happen, they're not going to come and travel through there because
Yeah, fire
it'll
won't. That's one thing that the people who joined a little late missed, that there should be understory under a forested area, and that's what helps keep the fire from moving through. And the California fires inspired me to tell you what I know about trees.
yeah.
I'd like to move on to how they create community together and why that's
Last thing on the
important.
chemtrail. Sorry, the last thing on the
Well, let's
chemtrail.
stay on topic, Ren.
No, that you did. You said the chemtrails. So they
Yeah.
put all keep it from raining. They can make it rain. They can make it hail. They can do all sort. They poison us with them too. So we need
Yeah.
to speak up about that stuff.
Well,
So thank you for bringing.
that's another time. I'm gonna stay on topic. Okay, I have just a message that, okay, anybody who needs to go. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about is how they teach us how to be in community and that you're stronger together. And I feel like trees are more like people than any other thing on this planet. Like energetically, trees, they connect to the sunlight and they bring it down through their body, and then they are deeply rooted in the ground, so they are really connected with the above and below, and maintaining, the physical earthly connection with the etheric energetic realm. And that's what we do too. We do that too, but trees just do it naturally. And we're supposed to be in that connection, but not always so aware of it. And um, they help each other in community. So if you see a tree living by itself, it doesn't have its neighbors helping it, and it's not as supported as it would be if it had neighbors. So they send their roots down, and then below ground they get connected with the fungal network. So the fungi that's in the ground connects trees to each other. And that fungi moves deep into the soil and can connect with the bedrock, and all of the trace minerals that are down there, they are able to metabolize. And they bring it up and they share it with the trees. And in return, the trees make sugary snacks for all of the soil life and feed it all these I did some Elaine Ingham studies, and she calls it cakes and cookies. Yeah, so all the plants and the trees, like anything growing, they send all these cakes and cookies out to the other life, and it feeds that life, and in return you receive back from it. And that's how trees show us to be a good land steward. And when one tree is sick and can't receive those things on its own, other trees send those things to them through the fungal network. They know when somebody is suffering. So one of the things that plants are well aware of is when damage is happening to one of their brethren, basically. So um, there are studies that have been done to study the source field of a plant And if you're in your kitchen chopping up a carrot, your plant that might be growing in a pot on the windowsill measures these same um, differences in their electrical field. They sense it. They know everything is connected. So they know when something is happening to whatever you are making dinner with. So I read that in a David Wilcock book somewhere a few years ago, and I was amazed to know that they know that. But knowing that, then you'll understand like African trees, and they're so eaten all the time by giraffes and elephants and things. They know that they're being damaged, and they will put out one of those aerosols, and it will go downwind and warn the other trees that something's coming. And so they then produce something that makes their foliage taste bad. And the downwind trees get prepared so they don't suffer as much damage. And that was one thing that was totally amazing to me. um, they work together. They're stronger together. They communicate through the fungi. They communicate through the air. They cooperate. A lot of trees will cooperate with each other, and they don't hog the canopy space. Especially like trees, some trees are different in that way. There are trees that are meant to be in direct sunlight, and they grow first, and then they provide shade for other trees that need shade to grow. And the other thing that I feel like I've learned from trees um, is how to be strong and flexible, because trees produce something that's called heartwood, and without it, they would just fall over. And the study that they did where they put people in a dome, I don't know if anybody remembers that. They put people in a dome to see if they could make this sustainable community. Everything had to be in there. So the trees were in there also, but there was no wind. They didn't receive any kind of challenge as they were growing. So they didn't develop any heartwood. And it's like that for people too. We get to grow when we're challenged. And even though it might feel hard when you're going through it, you are developing your heartwood. So it makes the next challenge not a challenge at all, or maybe easier. And it doesn't feel as hard as it used to. If we don't go through and receive our heartwood like the trees do, then we can't cope as grown-ups. And I love that, just all these messages that I see from trees about cooperating and being part of an ecosystem. So trees as part of an ecosystem are stronger. You're not going to get the burning from the fires because there's an understory. And just as an aside, because my brain is swirling around right now, if people really want their red meat, this is my opinion. If they really want their red meat, uh, go back to bison. Cows can't take care of themselves. They don't know how to live through winter without help. They can't have their babies without help. They destroy understory. Bison don't do that. Bison head straight into that winter weather. They love it. They hide when it's time to calve. They don't eat understory. You don't need to feed them in the winter time to make sure they don't die. They know how to do it. They're built to do it. Just cows don't make sense to me. And if you're interested in bison, there's a really great book called Buffalo for the Broken Heart, and that's where I learned what I know about bison and cows. So that's bison are tree friendly. They're tree friendly. Cows are like um they're like a pest. They're like a pest species. Bison are not. The last thing that I wanted to share is also how trees are made to water themselves. So I've listened over the years to all of these um, people talking about drought coming from California and having drought issues and not wanting willows in the rivers because they suck up all the water. And the thing is, trees are designed with their bark design and their leaves to capture the water from the air at night, and it trickles down them into their root zone, and they are self-watering. And there was something else in there that I wanted to say specifically about willows. Um, yeah, willows need a lot of water. You know what else they do? They hold the creek in place. The roots come down and grow under the creek bed and hold it together. They keep you from having a problem with flooding or the creek changing, all of a sudden changing its route and maybe flooding something out that you don't want flooded. It holds the creek in place. Trees are really they each the species have their own unique gifts and the way they add to things. One more thing I'll say that they do to help us is when water comes up out of the ground, it wants to come up at 4 degrees Celsius. And the place where you're going to find that is in a forest, maybe on top of a mountain. It will naturally come up out of the ground, and then the trees are there keeping the environment cool at that 4 degrees Celsius, which is water's perfect temperature for maintaining cleanliness. That's the temperature where pests die and beneficials thrive. So they do so much, and they have a lot to teach. And I feel like Fanny and I get to explore more about the spiritual aspects of things, but I really wanted people to hear all of these magical things that they can do. And I knew it wouldn't take the full hour, but I wanted to leave room for questions.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So, in terms of a call to action or something that we can do that's positive for the trees, some things I've tried is planting trees, you know, and then learned pretty quickly that you really have to have the space, the land, um, the resources to nurture the tree, the time, it's not
Yeah.
just like hey, let me just press this button over here, Although I do use Ecosia, which they supposedly plant trees instead of Google search, you use ecosia.org.
I have
It's a
used that too. Yes.
yeah. But like what can we do to support the trees, you know, in our everyday life?
So the ones that you have, study who they cooperate with, like whatever kind of tree it is. I mean, maybe it's just a little dwarf fruit tree. That's okay. That's not gonna, I mean, it's not gonna make as big of a difference as a forest of old growth is going to make, but they all like to be planted with other things that support them. And I don't know what all of them are. I mean, I know what the wild things are in California. I'm learning a little bit about here in Kentucky and what it likes to have for understory. But support whatever tree you have with good compost and plant some other things under it. I'm not a fan of lawns. I'm a fan of using the vertical space for something under a tree, and whatever you use it for will support the tree. So, for instance, I had a fig tree at my home in California, and I supported it by planting blueberries under it.
Mm.
And I mean, it wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be. It had a lot of other things growing under it too. It had a lot of flowers, and it had calendulas and it had hollyhocks, and the blueberries started okay, but then they weren't quite happy. I'm not sure what was missing for them, but blueberries are a good understory tree for a fig. And it may have been the soil wasn't ready for it. you want to make your soil ready for a tree also. So trees like more of a fungal network than than bacteria. So your grasses or your garden things like bacteria better. So by mulching it, you could mulch it with wood chips, and that would support it and get a fungal network growing for it. There are so many things, but the easiest one would be to either plant something under it or mulch it with some wood chips.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna jump on this donation-based call.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I learned a ton just now, so I'm
Oh,
excited.
good.
I'm
Good.
gonna put it in action here. So thank you, thank
Awesome.
you. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, did you want to ask anything?
No, I don't have any questions. I do love this information though, because I did not know all of that about trees. It's nice to learn it. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad. There's one person who's not on here, Kathy. Kathy, I'll just check in with you and see if you want to ask anything. And if not, then we can totally wrap it up. Or maybe I'll sit in here and talk with Ren for a while about chemtrails and National Guard armories.
And taking back our wild,
Yeah.
our local communities.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and if I could find the button, I can never find the button to stop the recording. Eventually I'm gonna stop the recording. I don't want to end the meeting. I want to stop the recording. Oh, there it is. Sorry, you guys. I can't